1977's One on One starring Robbie Benson. Welcome back to Streetball Strategies basketball movie reviews. This is a coming-of-age, fish-out-of-water story about a small-town basketball star who gets recruited to play basketball at a major university out in California. And it's all about how a small-town, small-school, high school star, his transition from being a wide-eyed, innocent basketball player, going from that and trying to transition and adapt to college life and playing basketball for a major university. So let me describe the first few scenes of this movie to you. Henry Steele gets recruited personally by the head coach of Western University to come play basketball for them on a full scholarship. 4 years, room and board, the whole deal. Part of the scholarship is that he also gets a car so that he can drive from Colorado out to LA so he can start playing for the team. As soon as he arrives in Los Angeles, his car is overheating because it's the 70s and cars just did that in the 70s if you didn't really pay attention and take care of them. Plus, he's probably just an innocent kid who's not used to having a brand new car to maintain and take care of. So as soon as we see him, his car is smoking and overheating. He gets out, he runs across the street to a payphone to look up the address of the local dealership for his car so he can go get it fixed. When he runs back to the car, standing there is a virile, young, blonde Melanie Griffith who's like, "Hey stranger, how about you give me a ride?" That's gonna be the thumbnail of this video. And Henry, being Henry, is like, "Golly, sure, miss, I'll give you a ride wherever you want to go." So they get in the car, they start driving, it's still smoking, and she proceeds to immediately rob him. And so I'm thinking to myself, okay, I think I might see where this movie is going. So she takes all of his money. I don't know why she didn't take the car as well. She should have. It was a brand new car. It looked like a Thunderbird. It was nice. She should have taken that as well, but she just takes his money and she leaves. Very next scene is we see him walking up to the college university coach's office with all of his luggage in his arms. He walks up to the secretary at the coach's office and says, "Hi, I'm a basketball player here." And she looks at him like, "Yeah, what of it?" And he's like, "Oh, my name is Henry Steele. I was recruited by the coach. I have a full scholarship." And she goes, "Okay, fine, I'll take you to the coach." Like, I don't know why she has this attitude, but she takes him to the coach. When they get to his office, the coach looks at the secretary like, "What is it now?" And the secretary's like, "Sir, this young man says he's one of your new players." And the coach looks at Henry and goes, "Who are you?" "Oh, I don't know, coach. He's only the player you recruited a few months ago and gave a full scholarship to." Imagine if you actually knew who he was. So Henry goes, I'm Henry Steele, coach." And he goes, "Oh yes, Henry, of course, of course. The secretary will show you everything you need to know." So he goes with the secretary. And from that moment on, everyone that Henry encounters and meets is just a complete jerk to him. They're terrible to him. Even the people who like take pity on him and try to help him, they end up doing some kind of harm to him incidentally. So I'm starting to watch this movie and I'm thinking, what's going on? This doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Why does everybody seem to like hate him? And what I realized was that this movie is set in the 70s, and it's specifically in California in the 70s, and to my understanding, because it's kind of before my time, but the way I understand it is the sort of mentality of the nation of the time was kind of like, we're terrible people, we're terrible humans, we're a terrible country, we treat ourselves and other countries terribly, we pollute the planet, we're destroying the planet, we're we eat terribly. We're just terrible people. Like, we were complete downers in the 70s, especially like in California. And one of the major themes of that time was that the man and the system are bad. They're terrible. They're trying to hold you down and keep you down. And I realized that's what's going on in this movie. In this movie, the man and the system is being represented by college athletics. For example, the very first day of practice, as soon as Henry shows up and starts practicing and drilling, and he's playing his normal game, which is like fancy scoring layups and passes and a little bit of kind of show-off kind of moves, as well as the fact that, shocker, the star of the movie is the tiniest player on the team. As soon as the coaches see him doing this, the immediate reaction and attitude from the coaches, why are you so small? And why are you so untough? And what's up with all this showboating and hot dogging kind of playing? What's going on? I don't know, coach. He's doing what he did when you recruited him. He's doing what he did so that you would recruit him. When you recruited him and he signed on to your school, you never said, hey, in a few months, by the time you get on campus, you should grow 6 inches, put on 60 pounds of muscle, and stop playing all this kind of fancy basketball. You didn't say any of that. All you said was, as soon as you get to LA, come to see me. And because of this, Henry's confused. He's like, what's going on? I can't play my game, and suddenly I'm too small and weak to be playing on this team? What's going on? And the coaching staff continues to ride him about stuff that's like out of his control and reasons that he got recruited, or so he thought in the first place, or suddenly he doesn't belong on the team for those very reasons. And so he starts to lose his confidence and he starts to play worse and worse, and then he eventually, like before the first game of the season, he just gets benched and he just stays on the bench for the entire season. Quick venue change. Sorry about that, guys. Anyway, as I'm watching this movie, I'm starting in my mind to compare it to the 1993 football classic movie Rudy. In that movie, from the very beginning, everybody understands that he is an underdog. He understands that he's an underdog. But he wants desperately to play football at the University of Notre Dame, even though he's a tiny, small guy. But he says, you know what, I know that it's pretty unlikely that it's ever going to happen, but it's my dream, so I'm going to work for it anyway. Thus starts his climb to his objective. And every obstacle that he encounters, he finds a way to work through it. That's one of the reasons that Rudy is one of the best underdog stories ever, is because the pacing of the narrative of the movie is done so well. Because as he climbs that underdog mountain, at the very end of the movie, there's the crescendo. At the very end, it's a great pacing of a great underdog story. In One-on-One, it's very much the opposite, because at the very beginning, we're told that Henry Steele is a great high school basketball player with great promise to be a great college player. And so he starts out way up here, and then as soon as he gets to college, he starts to get beaten down by the system and the man. And then throughout the movie, he just sort of gets worse and worse. So let's talk about the basketball in One-on-One. For being the 70s, the basketball played in general is pretty good. It's pretty competent. But there's a major problem, which is every scene that has basketball in it that's showing us Henry's highlights to say, here's why he's such a good basketball player. Here's why he's such a coveted high school basketball recruit. In every scene, he's open for everything he does. If he makes a layup, fancy layup, he's open. If he makes a jumper, he's open. If he makes a steal, it's clear that the opponent just kind of let him steal the ball. If he makes a pass, a fancy pass, he's open, his teammate is open. So everything he does, he pretty much does when he's open. And a casual fan, a casual basketball fan may not notice that, but I couldn't help but to notice that with all the basketball highlights of Henry, he's just open, and that kind of takes away the mystique of him actually being a good player, because he only does these things when he's open. So what happens at the very end of the movie, the very last game of the movie, the hero game of the movie, because Henry's been sitting the entire time on the bench, the entire season, Once he finally gets back into the game, when the opposing team is actually playing actual defense on him, surprise, surprise, he doesn't handle it well. One, because he's been sitting the entire season. He has no basketball rhythm going into the game. And two, just everybody's bigger than him. He gets like double teamed by bigger guys in the corner. He turns the ball over and he's playing terrible. And it makes sense that he's playing terrible, but the problem also is that at some point in the game, he just decides that, okay, you know what, enough of this. I'm going to play my game. I'm going to play Henry Steele's game. I'm not going to play the man's game. I'm not going to play within the system. I'm going to play my own game. And then so he just starts playing great. He like takes over the game and starts playing all-star type basketball. And the problem is that it doesn't feel earned. It doesn't feel deserved. It doesn't really make sense other than he just decided he was going to play better and he started to. And because of that, he's the hero of the game. And it just doesn't feel like that's what should have happened. It doesn't feel earned. It doesn't feel like he deserved to take over the game. It doesn't feel like he deserved to be the star of the game just because he decided that he was going to play better. That's a major flaw in the basketball story. He was a great player at the beginning. He got beat down the entire season, and at the very end, he like decided to become an all-star. It doesn't make sense, and it really hurts the basketball story. Everything else in this movie, all of the B storylines, everything that happens off the court, all of the stuff where he's trying to acclimate being in college and being in LA and sort of becoming an adult now, all of that stuff is done perfectly fine. It's obvious that the creators of this movie, the directors, the producers, the writers, they all know what they're doing. They all know how to make a good movie. They all know how to tell a good story. And they do that with all the off-court basketball stuff. All the pacing's good, the script is good, the acting is good, all of that's good. The problem is with the actual basketball story itself, because it doesn't make sense. So is One on One a good movie? It's an okay movie, but the basketball story is told so poorly that it really takes away from watching this movie. Does it accomplish what it's trying to do, which is like tell the story of this kid, his fish out of water, coming of age, acclimating to life in the big city? Does the movie accomplish that? Yeah, it does. It just does it in a sloppily kind of nonsensical kind of way. Should you see it anyway? No, you don't have to see it. You don't have to experience it. I think if you do see it, if you do choose to watch it, you're not really going to regret it, but you're just going to forget it. It's forgettable. There's nothing in the movie that stands out. So because of all that, I'm torn on what the grade of the movie should be. I'm going to give it a C minus. I wanted to give it a C because it's a basketball movie that existed before the creation of the NBA popularity from Magic and Bird. Like in the 80s, the NBA and thus basketball in American society and culture sort of blew up and became popular. Prior to that, in the 1970s, when basketball movies are made, basketball's not really in the zeitgeist of popular American culture. So it's good that a basketball movie is being made before Magic and Larry blew up the popularity of the NBA. I want to give it a C because of that, but I can't go that far because the basketball story, even though the basketball play is okay, the basketball story is told so poorly. So it gets a C minus. So that's my review of 1977's One on One. If you guys like this review, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so you're notified of all the rest of the basketball movies on this Esquire.com Best Basketball list. And I will see you guys next time.
We East Champs, dog, get it right. Trust you wanna play, bring your ball and your nights, let's go.